Welcome to the Wolverine Recruiting Show. I am Clayton Sayfie with EJ Holland. We're from the Wolverine.com. Remember to use the promo code Blue60 for all of our premium coverage of Michigan football, basketball, and recruiting. Promo code Blue60 gets you 2 months for free at the Wolverine.com. All right, EJ, let's dive into this week's topics here surrounding Michigan football recruiting. We will start with linebacker recruiting because it got a little interesting this week. Josh Burnham, a top target in state from Traverse City Central, chooses Notre Dame as expected, was trending that way over the last couple of weeks. Your thoughts on that, the impact of him choosing a rival as opposed to the in-state Wolverines, and then kind of what's next for Michigan going forward at linebacker?
Yeah, there's no way around it. It was a tough loss. It was a head-to-head loss, against Notre Dame. Like, there's no need to hide it or pretend like Josh Burnham sucks now or is bad. It was a really good player and a guy that Mike McDonald and Hilo all tried to really make a late push for. And Josh grew up in a family full of Michigan fans, but at the end of the day, I think he really bonded with Notre Dame staff, especially Coach Freeman, their new defensive coordinator. And even when Michigan made the change, Brian G. Mary was still on staff, and then he obviously left, and so Hilo became the new linebackers coach. And there was still a lot of moving parts, and I think that played a little bit of a role. But I also think Josh just fits kind of that Notre Dame personality type, and he's a quiet kid, way out in Traverse City, so it's not like he's a city kid either. I think he likes the small environment of Notre Dame, the feel of South Bend, as opposed to the kind of, even though Ann Arbor is a smaller town, it still feels like you're in a city. So I just think for him, he felt like Notre Dame's was a better fit. And looking ahead at Michigan, like, Burnham's a loss, but I'm not concerned about linebacker recruiting. Michigan's coming off a very good linebacker class, including landing Junior Colson last cycle. Michigan always recruits the linebacker spot really well. There are plenty of other options. So I think it is a loss because it was an in-state kid. Burnham is very talented, but linebacker should be a position that we're not too concerned about when we're looking at Michigan's board. I think that some of the top guys right now are Sebastian Cheeks, Rivals 250 prospect here in my homeland of Chicagoland. I will be seeing Sebastian play next week, so it should be a lot of fun to catch up with him. I did exchange some messages with him. He had a really, really good Zoom call with George Hilo and some of the other members on staff. Sharon Moore, his area recruiter, Maddie Dudek, was also on the call. And then a couple hours later, he had another call with Mike McDonald. And so Michigan made it clear, we are still making you one of our top priorities on the defensive side of the ball. So they're definitely pushing for Sebastian Cheeks. He's good friends with Tyler McLaurin, who signed with Michigan last cycle. So I think that'll help. Michigan's done really well recruiting in the Chicago area. And anytime you have Sharon Moore involved, that gives you kind of a boost of confidence as well. And I think Hilo's going to turn into a good young recruiter. So I know a lot of buzz has been with Notre Dame on Sebastian Cheeks, but with Notre Dame just landing Joshua Burnham and Cheeks being the, basically the number one guy on the linebacker board, I think that things can start to trend back to Michigan. Michigan was initially the school being talked about the most. And then there are some other programs involved, like Northwestern and Texas and Oregon are some other schools he's high on. But I think Michigan has a legitimate chance to pull Sebastian. Outside of Sebastian, Michigan is making two Florida linebacker prospects priorities, DeMario Tolan and Omar Graham, two new offers. Again, you might not be too familiar with these names, though I did talk about Tolan in our five best recruits from Pylon Atlanta. So I got to see both of them over the weekend. And like I said, I love Tolan. He's a top 250 prospect, very athletic, great build. Omar Graham is more of your traditional thumping inside linebacker, likes to get physical, working on his coverage this offseason, hence why he's playing 7-on-7. But both really like Michigan. I think they're going to be tough pulls from Florida, but Michigan has showed that it can land talent out of the Sunshine State. They did last cycle with Jaden McBurrows and Jaden Hood. So I think they can do the same, and they're going to continue to work on both Tolan and Graham, and they are top targets. Both of them had calls with George Hilo this week, so they are making big pushes for both of those guys. Another guy that I saw recently down in the Southeast that Michigan loves is Shamar James. Recently listed Michigan in his top 8. Michigan was the only non-Southern school in that group. But then that tells you how good of a job Michigan has done recruiting him. So he has genuine interest. He wants to make a visit. Shamar is a very versatile linebacker that can be an inside guy or be kind of a hybrid linebacker safety. He's really he moves really, really well in space. So I'm high on him as well. And then another prospect to watch is Keaton Wade down in the Nashville area. Michigan has obviously been recruiting the state of Tennessee very well, landing Junior Colson last cycle with, Coach Mo Linguist having some ties in the South. He's been able to pull in Taylor Groves, Cody Jones. So they're in a great spot for Miles Pollard, who actually trains with Keaton Wade. And so I think Keaton Wade's another guy. I had a chance to see him last offseason, and he's a big physical kid, really long. I think will more than likely be an edge rusher. I'm very high on him. He listed Michigan in his top 9. So there are some other names definitely out there. Michigan has been making a lot of offers at the linebacker spot, but those are definitely guys that come top to mind that the staff has been in contact with lately.
You mentioned Miles Pollard. Let's talk about him and kind of switch gears to the secondary. Michigan obviously in good shape, starting out with Will Johnson, the 5-star corner from in-state. You mentioned some of those Tennessee guys, Cody Jones, Taylor Groves. Looking at another Tennessee guy in Miles Pollard, a 4-star in the class of 2022, out of Brentwood, Tennessee, Ravenwood High School. Taking a visit this weekend to Michigan. Obviously, it's a dead period. He won't be able to, per the rules, won't be able to, see any of the coaches, see any of the facilities. But this is kind of the new normal, right, where guys are getting on campus, walking by the stadium, walking by maybe the practice facilities on their own, getting a vibe for the campus, seeing some of the academic buildings. So your thoughts on Miles Pollard, what this means for him, his timeline, and, just how big it is to actually get him to step foot on campus?
It's huge. We were the first to report that Miles Pollard was going to be making a visit. Michigan is doing what it can to close with him. As I've said before, Coach Linguist is making him the number 1 cornerback target on the board right now. 5-star cornerback commit, and new ace recruiter Will Johnson will be joining him in Ann Arbor for the visit. So that'll be big. They'll get a chance to really bond and get to know each other. And, kudos to Will for being an ambassador of the program and taking time to go out and do that and meet with Miles. But this is going to be Miles's first time at Michigan. Again, like you mentioned, he's not going to have a normal visit where he would get to meet with the staff and go inside the facilities, etc. But he can get a feel for Ann Arbor. He can mesh with Will Johnson. He can take a look at the campus. He can maybe see some of the athletic facilities from the outside looking in. But overall, I think it's just great that he's making his way to campus, and even better that he's spending time with Will Johnson. As you may recall, Will Johnson had a group call with Maurice Linguist and Pollard. And so Linguist has been involving Johnson in all these recruitments. And I think that that's paying dividends. Miles told me this weekend that he definitely would like to team up with Will Johnson. He sees that as a great opportunity and thinks they complement each other well. Miles' father, Greg, spent some time with me in Atlanta as well, and Greg told me that he has always really liked Michigan, has always respected the program, knows its value, not only on the field as a blue blood program, but off the field as a top-tier academic school. So he's looking forward to the visit as well. There are a couple other, schools that are very high on his mind. Oklahoma, I think, is the biggest threat right now. Auburn has gotten involved. Home State, Tennessee is in the picture, and then you have a wild card in Washington that Miles really likes as well. And so, ideally, Miles would like to visit all these schools. Not ideal for Michigan. Michigan wants to land his commitment soon, like within the next couple of weeks. So, Linguist and Will Johnson are going to do everything they can to get Pollard. So if Pollard makes a decision, if you see Pollard saying, I'm committing on, whatever it is, April 1st or 2nd or whatever the case is, a week or two after that visit, then, we'll be extremely confident that that's Michigan. If a decision doesn't come in the near future, then things could get interesting because Miles could make that visit to OU and that could change things. The dead period looks like it's going to open up. So I know that Linguist is making it a priority to get him on the boat now, and so that's what this weekend is all about.
Yeah, definitely one to keep an eye on coming out of the weekend. Yeah, if we see something like I'm committing, hopefully not April Fool's Day because you just never know at that point.
Yeah,
But
I thought it said April 1st, and I was like, oh, bad day.
right, right. But somewhere around there, then that is going to look really, really good for Michigan coming off of that visit. And having Will Johnson, like we talk about the impact of Will Johnson being an in-state recruit. You had to keep him home. He's a legacy guy. But also having him just down the street as an in-state recruit to be able to help recruit these guys during a dead period where he's really the only guy that can see him, that can help too. I think that's something that maybe I never thought of or I didn't think of when he came on board. And now you're seeing him, like you said, new ace recruiter Will Johnson. He is all in on bringing talent around him in this class of 2022. Speaking of Will Johnson, the last thing that we are going to get to, we saw him last week at 7-on-7 at the Legacy event, which was a great event put on by Legacy 7-on-7 in the huge field house there in the Ann Arbor area, Brighton area. He was impressive. I mean, we had both seen him. You've seen him in multiple settings. I saw him in game setting last year, and then seeing him a little bit older, a few months at the very least, but going into his senior year now as a Michigan commit, heck of an athlete, obviously physical. That was kind of one of my first takeaways is how physical he is at the line of scrimmage. And then just the way that he's able to, glue himself to the guy he's guarding. And in 7-on-7, that's extremely important. It's extremely important in just football in general as a defensive back. So what were some of your takeaways from seeing Will Johnson there in that setting? And I'll roll the highlights here for the YouTube viewers.
Yeah, Will Johnson is Will Johnson. I mean, he's a 5-star for a reason. As you see in a lot of these clips, it's just him playing some zone, playing a little bit of man, more press man, but nothing really coming his way. It's just everything goes away from him. He completely takes away his side of the field. So you can see in some of these clips, he's playing so far off. He's trying to get, he's trying to bait the quarterback into throwing his way, but to no avail. Here you see him kind of use his length and physicality to just ride the receiver. Here he just kind of steps off into a zone where nobody's coming. And that's basically what it was all afternoon. It's kind of boring, but it's great because, anytime you have a corner and you're not calling his name, that means he's doing his job. And so Will does his job better than quite a few or basically everybody in the class. I feel like Will is that guy that's going to start right away. And as you can see, just his build, he's really physically impressive. He's ready to go. He's ready to roll. He's ready to get to Michigan. I think if Will, join the program in the summer, he'd be ready to go. Obviously, he still has a year of high school left, but if, he were part of the 2021 class, I feel like Will would be a day one starter regardless.
Yeah, and you can kind of see that the physical maturity from him that doesn't look like a kid who's actually a junior, heading into what's going to be his senior season. Anything he can improve on, I guess, as he continues to just work on his craft. I mean, I know, like being a 5-star kid, already committed, knows where he's going. like you could kind of just take a deep breath and be like, yeah, I don't have to go out to this event on a random weekend and waste my weekend, quote unquote. But that's not his mentality, and I know that Jim Harbaugh and his staff kind of have always liked that mentality out of kids. He's still working to get better. I guess what are some of the things he's focusing on?
Yeah, I think with any five-star kid, there's still areas to improve on. With Will, I think it's speed. He already has really good speed for his size, but just building more straight line speed, being a little quicker in short space. So speed is one. He's just so big and tall that I think he's still kind of, Will's still young. Like I said, he's not part of the 21 class. He's part of the 22 class. He's still growing into his body. So I think just continuing to work on his speed, and that is something that Will's working on. He actually has a private speed coach. So I'm actually going to catch up with him and do a story on Will and his progression as far as his speed. I know elsewhere he was dropped because there weren't really verified times for him, either in track or from a 40, but he is plenty fast. I had Tayshawn Trent, Michigan's four-star wide receiver, on the podcast last week, and he talked about how fast Will is, how crazy his makeup speed is. If you do have the odd chance of beating him off the line for whatever reason, his makeup speed's so great that you're not going to catch the ball on him. And so, anyway, he can still make strides in that area. Anytime you have a big, tall kid at that corner position, usually hips are a problem, but with Will, his hips are terrific. I think with him, it's continuing to make sure he has that flexibility as he continues to grow into his body, as he matures another year, just maintaining that flexibility. So whatever he does, whether it's yoga or something else, it works. He just needs to keep, making sure he maintains that flexibility and doesn't get too stiff. But from a technical standpoint, I mean, his father's Deion Johnson, so he's grown up, around the game of football. His IQ is terrific. He's a smart kid off the field. I think the biggest thing for Will just be making the adjustment to people actually throwing at him. They don't throw at him, so maybe actually getting reps where he's thrown at will be something maybe new for him, where nobody's ever attacked Will Johnson. So just having that adjustment period once he gets to the next level, playing at a little bit of a different speed where quarterbacks are more willing to throw your way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a heck of a point. I think basketball helped with the flexibility aspect too. He's also playing basketball. That's why he didn't participate in the first day of this event and then played the second day. So it tells you a lot about this kid in general as well, just being an overall athlete, trying to get better and all that. But he was really impressive to see. And then we saw Jeff Okudah there, a kid that you covered. Obviously, Detroit Lion was a number 3 pick, and you kind of tweeted out that Will Johnson is one of the more impressive defensive back recruits that you've covered since Jeff Okudah, and they had the picture there together. It was kind of a cool moment there too.
Yeah, that was cool. I didn't even know Jeff was standing there. Will came over to me and was like, "Your guy's there," because I've talked to him about Jeff in the past. And I was like, "Jeff." And so it's just really cool to see Jeff again. Like, anytime you can see one of your favorite recruits ever, it's a cool moment. And, Will was excited to get to meet him and everything. So it was cool kind of linking those two. I went over to Jeff and I was like, "This guy's the next you, man." And so they got a chance to talk, and I think Will even got his number and everything. So that was really cool from Jeff. But yeah, I've covered probably only a handful of guys that I would say as soon as I saw them, I knew they were NFL guys. One was Okudah down in Dallas. The other one was Jamal Adams, obviously both being top 10 NFL draft picks. And, I think Will can be kind of in that same mold. I evaluated a lot of terrific defensive backs down in Texas, a lot of high draft picks, but Jamal and Jeff were better than all of them. And I think that Will can, again, be in that same mold.
Yeah, that would be crazy. And I will say on Jeff, he's got to get a little bit better. He didn't have the best rookie season with the Lions. That's just from my perspective. That's me saying it, not EJ, who knows him. I don't know him. But as a Lions fan, that's what I observed. But that is our show for this week, we want to give a special shout out to our great sponsors, Lewis Jewelers. Remember to use the promo code BLUE60 at thewolverine.com for 2 months of our premium content, insider updates, absolutely free. Try us out. Promo code BLUE60.